Welcome to Dairyland Frights, the paranormal podcast that covers everything creepy, spooky, and mysterious in the Midwest and beyond. And you know what? I am so excited to have David back from Midwest Spirit Seekers. We had almost an early episode, and it was one of my favorite episodes that we did. And David had some really nice spooky stories and some really cool investigation, stories to talk about and everything. It was a blast. So welcome, David.
Thanks for having me.
Well, yeah. And then we have a new person. I don't know if you're new on the team, but Tiffany. Hi, Tiffany. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've been with them since officially April last year.
Okay, great. And you've put up with David. You haven't had any problems with him, right?
We've had a few wild instances together in investigations, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, hey, David, if you could just reintroduce to my spooky friends a little bit about Midwest Spirit Seekers, and what you guys have been doing lately.
Sure. Midwest Spirit Seekers, we were created back in 2019 with a bunch of, fans of the paranormal, and everybody had their own personal reasons for joining the team. And we just wanted to explore the paranormal, but we also wanted to help people. And I think that was always our main goal, is if somebody needed help, what could we do to help them and how can we help?
Yeah.
We, just like every other place, we've lost a couple team members, they had a change, but we've brought in 3 new team members, including Tiffany. And then this year we brought in Kaylee and Zach. So you'll start seeing more of them on investigations with us as well.
Yeah, that's awesome because again, teams change and everything, and that's fine. As long as you guys continue going and continue doing the paranormal and everything like that. So let's get right into it, guys. David, tell me about some of your investigations, wherever you want to start. And Tiffany, please feel free to chime in. Where would you like to start? Which investigation?
I mean, there's been a lot recently.
Okay.
One of the areas that is one of our proudest moments, I would like to start with there. And his name's Jason.
Absolutely.
He lives in Southeast Minneapolis, and we've been working with him privately at his location. He purchased this about 10 years ago, and he's been rebuilding it back to a Victorian style house. But we've been in contact with him for the past couple years, getting to know him, and Midwest Spirit Seekers has been able to help him and assist him more with the history. Yes, there's been some paranormal activity in his place, but the history that we've been able to uncover at this house that he's purchased, and he wants this place out there. He wants it to be known. He wants people to come and learn the history of what was in this house before he took it over. So that's been always on our trying to get over there once a month or once every other month and do some investigating and helping him handle that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this really quickly before we go in and tell me what you found is kind of what is your process for determining if a location is truly haunted versus just having a natural explanation? I mean, how do you guys start? Obviously, with this gentleman, how did you start?
Well, I think some of it has just evolved with our team over time. When you're first into this and somebody says our house is haunted, you're going to go jump and go do it and go check it out. But when Jessie, is talking to some of these, because she handles a lot of the behind the scenes, talking with the people and getting things set up and all that type of stuff. We kind of got to set questions that we want to know. We'd like to come over and do a walkthrough of the house ourselves. And really that was Tiffany's first or second experience, bringing her into the team, but also bringing her into this location. And she can share that as well. She wanted to go in blind, not knowing the history of the house with her abilities so she can validate some of the claims.
Yeah. Tiffany, so let's talk about that. Are you sensitive or your abilities? What do you mean by that?
So, I am a evidential medium. So the way I practice with anything, even if because I'm a spiritual practitioner and healer as well, but anything that I do with either with spirit or say with clients, I practice blind. I don't want to know any information prior because just as much as say the owner of the house wants validation, I want validation. I like to stay grounded. I like to stay level headed and know that the information that I am getting is actually accurate. And the only way to do that is to allow Jess and Dave to have information prior. And then I put in some earbuds with some real loud music. And I'll typically wander around while they're getting a tour. Specifically at Jason's, I'm very clairvoyant. So I either will see spirits present with us or I will just get a lot of visual images from them. Yeah. But we've had some interesting stuff over there, and I've seen some interesting things there.
Okay, so let's get right into it, shall we? Describe some of these experiences because we love to hear it.
Well, the very first time we went there, Jason was giving the walk around. I had my earbuds and call it the den room because I don't know what he calls it, and I always forget. But we started in the parlor, and he was walking them around, and I'm just like do 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 do, and we go into the den, and I all of a sudden I see, I'm going to say, an older man. He had very thin framed glasses, round. He was bald on top. He had like a whitish gray mustache and like hair on the side. And he came off as like either a caretaker of the house, like butler, but he had like a lot of pride and he was very, very protective of it. And I was like, whoa, he presented himself like right away. And the weird part was he showed me a podium in the corner of the room. So I ran up because I was like, I still have the owner here. So I want to validate this. So I run in there and I pop an earbud out and I was like, hey, really weird question. And I described this man and his eyes just got really, really big. And I forget if he had said it was like a dog walker or something, but somebody he had employed saw this man and was so scared that they ran out of the house.
Oh,
So,
oh,
yeah.
okay. So, do you think spirits can attach themselves to an object? Because you said it was pointing to like a podium, or you know what I'm saying? Like, have you
Yeah.
touched an object and be like, oh, there's something with this?
So kind of how that works is it usually is either being very direct, like a very direct message, or it's something for me to interpret. Usually the interpretations are so I understand better. The podium to me felt like it was, how do I describe that better? Because it's a very small room, so it felt very out of place to me. It felt like if you were doing speaking for close relatives, or if you were holding a small sermon in your living room or something like that. That's kind of the vibe that it was giving to me when I saw it. We later found out, Dave, wasn't it? There was funerals that used to be held in that room.
Yeah, and I think that happened a lot, late 1800s, early,
Right.
funeral services for the people that had passed away in that house would be done at the house. And there was a couple of them that had where they did have those services in there.
Yes, that's very true. This would be really hard to do today, but literally they would put the bodies like in a room, like you would do a funeral parlor,
Yep.
and that body might be in that house sitting in that coffin for a week and people just stop by, right? And just say
Yep.
hi. I mean, that's really bizarre, right? Now,
Mhm.
today, that's really bizarre. Back then, it's kind of the deal, right?
Yeah, it was a norm.
Yeah. No big deal. So let me ask you this. Did you, either one of you feel, you kind of mentioned about it, were there, um, that spirit, did you feel like it had unfinished business or was seeking help? Or what did you
That's
think?
that specific spirit that I connected to because later on that first investigation at Jason's, I sat down in that room and I just was kind of like, okay, like, can you help me understand? Like, what is this message you want to get across? And everything that came through was actually very protective of Jason in the house.
Hmm.
Like, the spirit was concerned about theft. What I couldn't make out is if it was something that happened during his lifetime or if he was concerned about something happening in the actual home. Um, but then I did remember the dog walker, and I'm not putting blame anywhere because, again, this could just be the spirit's perspective, especially if they're being very protective.
Right.
So he had talked about, people stealing, and he wasn't okay with that. He wanted Jason to be around the house more often. And he looks at Jason as the matriarch of the house because he hasn't just remodeled a house, he has restored their home. And it is absolutely beautiful. And all of the spirits in the house, like, they're happy about this. They want him doing this construction and restoration. Yeah. We've even gotten it on audio. I think it was that very first night, right, Dave, when we
Yep.
were up in the yellow room and we were asking questions, and it kind of felt like we were starting to be blocked off a little bit from their responses. And I just, got a wild hair up my butt. And I was just kind of like, would you guys like to talk to us with Jason here? And I believe we got a yes. And then I had asked if they liked Jason doing the remodel on the house, and they corrected me and they said restoration.
Really?
One of
See,
the
now
things that
that's
was
yeah,
kind
go
of
ahead.
fascinating about that is the spirits in that house know when he leaves. And it feels like when we originally were there, they were worried, like if he went on vacation or something like that. It knew when he was going away for a few days.
Wow.
So
Wow. That 2 things really quickly. 1, I've never heard of that before. Usually, it's not good when you're renovating, correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
usually you're
Yes.
waking up a lot of things and could be negative.
Yeah, and that's usually par for the course where they see more activity and people not liking it. I've had stories where paranormal investigators have gone to, like, even apartments to investigate, and, like, someone, I don't know, moves the couch, and then they wake up the next morning and the couch is back to the original location that they moved it from to a new
Wow.
location.
That takes a massive amount of energy to do. That's
Correct, correct.
wow.
Or a chair, or cups, or pictures, or just a variety of objects, and, you're right, I mean, that takes tremendous amount of energy to move a couch, or a chair, or even pictures, right? So that's that's funny. That's the first one. I've heard of ghosts being protective of children. I've had people on to say, like, "Well, my daughter, she's talking to Mr. Smith, and, every time I come in there and I, like, maybe scold her or something like that, Mr. Smith doesn't like it and kinda lets me know." I've heard of things like that, but that's
Well,
fascinating.
there's many spirits in his house. Like there are quite a few.
Okay.
There's a little girl, there's a younger woman, there's an older woman who I believe, is it Miss Schaefer, Dave?
Yeah, so a little history on the store or on the building. This was built in the late 1800s, and some of this we found out afterwards. For example, back then there wasn't, if you were building a house, you weren't building on a prior property. But for whatever reason, this house was built on a former house, which makes you wonder why a little bit like that. One of the things, this house was gifted as a retirement present for her name is Sarah Schaefer. She was the first matron in the Minneapolis Police Department, and they gave her this house as a retirement gift.
Well,
And
that's
so
nice.
she kind of took it over the years. From what I've heard, a lot of former people that she knew lived there. So that house was there until she passed away, and then it was in and out for a little bit. But I think around the 70s, um, it had been in foreclosure for up until 10, 11 years ago when he bought it. So who knows what was in that house afterwards, after it got
Yeah.
foreclosed.
I mean, who knows how many people took like Ouija boards and stuff in there, because that house was not in good shape when he purchased it, but it is spectacular now.
Wow. That's really interesting. So, tell me about the other spirits. What other spirits did you encounter there?
So the first time we were there, I try to draw them when I can. I can't, I'm not the best artist, but when we were in the green room, I got imagery. That's when I first saw the little girl. She has like blondish hair. And then there was like another woman who since then I haven't seen, but she had like short black hair and she had like really thick, dark eyebrows and bangs. And, it wasn't like she was Asian or anything like that, but she was a very, very distinct spirit. But I haven't seen her since that day. However, that same session when we were in that room and we saw the little girl, all of a sudden, all I could hear was, "He's coming. He's coming." And all of a sudden, I am getting visuals of a butcher in a basement holding, I don't know what that piece is, but one of those big butcher knives.
Sure.
And he had like a brown leather apron on, and he just was not happy. And it was like, it was the weirdest thing. It was like he was looking up at me through the floorboarding from the basement. And I just had the weirdest feeling. And then he hid for a while. He just was not very communicative. And I started thinking that maybe because he is a bit of a lower vibrational spirit, that he was withholding other spirits from communicating. Like he doesn't want them to kind of tell their story kind of thing. Either, Dave, did we figure out if it was Emma is the little girl or if Emma was the woman who hung herself?
We believe that Emma is a little girl. We're kind of putting her right now under the age of 12, kind of that 10 to 12 range of what we've been able to capture. And that's been a very strong name in that house. I think with just trying to get evidence or what happened to Emma, where more things have come out that maybe might be more negative just because it doesn't want to share what happened to her.
Right. And the other thing too, on a lot of the audio recordings that we've got, it's just, it feels, for lack of better wording, it feels like all the other spirits in the house talk smack about Emma. Like, she's the problem for this. Emma, Emma, like Emma did that, or Emma brings disgrace. Like they really like push that out. So we're really looking into the history, and with the basement having a filled in sub basement below it, personally, with how interested the spirits are with him digging up the basement, I feel like there might be some stir of echo stuff that he uncovers later on. But, I could be wrong, but that's just my gut feeling.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, again, this seems like an unusual case, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems they're protective. Seems like I don't feel, or maybe you guys again just correct me. Do you feel any like evil spirits, like something was being evil, or do you just feel like they were just, Emma, she's kind of a pain in the neck? Like, what was your feeling about that?
When it comes to Emma being a pain in the neck, I think that for a lot of the spirits, either, we have some hypothesis that possibly she was one of, the maids in the house or something. And, something happened to her. And back then you just kind of brush things under the rug. Or back then, you would typically blame the woman for those kind of issues and things like that. So I just think that she was the scapegoat for everybody, just kind of be like, oh, you know what? No, that's her fault. That's her, and just kind of brush it away so they don't have to deal with it, kind of thing.
I would also
As
say,
for
I was just going to say, I would also say that the more history and the more evidence that we've been able to capture is also showing a little bit more darker side than what we initially thought when we, you know,
Okay.
went over there the first time. Because we'd been over there quite a few times, spending a weekend. Like I said in the previous podcast that we've done, sometimes we push our limits, but no, we want to try to get that information and make sure it's as accurate as we can get for Jason and his place.
I
Right.
could say that as for negative, the first time we were there was a spirit. So just a quick little, so you guys understand how I understand this and how I view this as a medium. There was a spirit. So the lower of a vibration your soul is in. So like if you don't cross over when you pass away, you keep the mindset you have when you were alive. You don't remember everything. You don't understand why you lived that life or your lessons or anything like that. You're stuck in the same mindset, and a lot of spirits get stuck in loops. And then if they're trying to communicate with people, if people are reacting in fear or it's angry environments, they're feeding off that same energy, but they're using that energy to communicate. So it kind of starts to twist things. This spirit in particular ended up being, I saw him in a prison uniform. And that was only after I told him to reveal himself, because before that, he was presenting himself to me as this long, gangly, black humanoid thing, mostly shadow, and it had claws. And he would climb all across the roofs, which the owner saw as well. And, when I told him to reveal himself and I saw what he actually was, I'm like, look, like, you gots to goes. Like, if you're not going to be
Okay.
a positive spirit in the house, you gots to goes. And then later on, that's not even including the butcher, because I have a lot of different feelings on that spirit. But there is one that we're aware of, but I can't say more on that right now outside of he is a watcher. and he likes to get into people's heads when they're sleeping.
Hmm.
So
That's really interesting. Yeah, I've heard too where some ghosts will, I'll use attack for lack of a better word, people who are vulnerable, right? Maybe they're going through some depression, maybe they're going through, who knows, right?
Mhm.
And those ghosts seem to latch on and unfortunately intimidate that person, cause issues, whether it be mental or health related. Did you guys feel like that was kind of happening sometimes when you were investigating?
They've been to the house more times than I have, so they probably have better instances. Personally, for me, the few times that I have been there, I picked up on like I think somebody fell off downstairs, like I picked up a head injury. I never sorry, my cat.
Okay.
Um yeah, Dave, do you want to answer that one?
Well, I would just say I think as we've gone on, we've never felt like anything was gonna be that was gonna attach to us, come home with us, those type of scenarios. Because there are some of those spirits there that are very fond of Jason and they want to be there with all the stuff that he's been able to do and the stuff that he's been able to bring up. Yes, there
Sure.
is some darker things as there as well that are trying to block you know, for us finding that. But we've never felt to the point where we felt that something was going to come home with us or anything like.
We never felt like we did at the Boyd house.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Before we move on to another investigation here, you guys, what have you been using as far as devices, investigation devices that have given you the most information that you've been at this house? Was it spirit boxes, cat balls? I'm always interested in that because everybody does everything different sometimes.
What's given us some of the best information, but has also made us more vulnerable, is doing the Estes method. And we use it. We use it quite a bit, but we had the red Delco goggles that are more people have starting to use. And that really opens you up probably a lot more than you should. I even had a dream one night where with a big sign that with a line through Delco not to use it anymore because it was opening us up to, you know, what negative things could be out there.
Yeah.
So some people use a spirit box. We use it's called a Phasma box. It's an app that we have attached to one of our iPads or yeah, like iPad. And when we took that on, obviously we were very leery of it. 'Cause it might have a word box in there. Those type of things. So we actually made a fake email. So and that thing only gets used on investigations, and it's set up that way to make sure that it's legitimate but, we're using a lot of recorders, a lot of those type of things to get talking to. And then, bringing Tiffany, when she says something and stuff, it's been able where now we can go into it and validate, both of our claims to make sure it's legit.
Yeah. That can be difficult sometimes, right? To do that and to make sure you're just not getting the AM station down the road, coming through or whatever. I know that probably does not happen at all, but you know what I mean? Some extra noise that kinda comes through and you're like, "Oh, man." And I think that's really difficult, especially if you're near a busy street or something like that, cars coming in and going by and people talking, that can be difficult. So, it's spooky season, folks, and this will be airing during October. What's the scariest thing that happened to you in this house?
Outside of the last time I was there in the basement, because that's where we feel like a lot of whatever traumatic things happen, or were hidden. I can say that I brought in one of my students and we had her do a walkthrough with, was it you or with Jess that she did the walk? It was with you. Okay, so you can probably fill in better with this then. Because I sat my little booty down and I was like, go see what you pick up. I love when another medium comes in and we are able to validate things. And she picked up a lot of the different things that I picked up. She picked up things that we'd gotten on audio and stuff before. We did go into the basement and it was just me, her, and Jess. And this is the first time we had all women in the basement. So it was very different. And for the whatever reason, the energy actually shifted. And the woman who hung herself came through for me and my student. I'm not sure if we'd been able to review the audio from that night yet, but I got my focus was more on the man, the butcher, who seemed to be very controlling about things. And I was just like, you know what, get out of here. Like, I know there's another entity upstairs, and I know he is the one who kind of rules things in the house and tells you what to do. So if you got nothing on us right now, and you need to leave the room because I know he runs the place. And it wasn't necessarily like I was trying to challenge anything. I was trying to operate in a way of, I know you're not in charge. I know someone else is in charge, spiritually speaking, in the veil. And I'm not afraid of you. Well, I think I brought something to light because all of a sudden I started choking. I felt like I was being choked. The impression, and then my student it felt like she was just getting punched in her stomach. And so we both went outside and we cleansed ourselves with some sage, and immediately the symptoms would go away. But if we stepped back in, it would reoccur again. So we waited a little bit before we went back down there. And to me, how I interpret that, I think it was more of a reaction on that entity or spirit's part. I think it was a like, keep my name out of your mouth, stop talking about me kind of thing, because it is his domain.
Yeah.
And that is the only time that anything like aggressive has happened, at least while I've been there, unless anything's happened when Dave is there.
Especially at that place, we hear the disembodied voices or we've heard anything, but nothing aggressive or negative that, again, that needed to worry us compared to what Tiffany and her student claims.
I do have one thing to say on this. Recently at Crypticon, I met somebody who was a demonologist and things like that. And so, out of curiosity, even though I'm a light worker, I had questions because everything's about balance and understanding. Basically, I had him connect to what's there. It's not anything demonic. So it definitely is a human spirit who's probably just, confused, haven't uncovered their story yet. Prior, back on the day of Crypticon, originally Jason had offered me a room to stay so I wouldn't have to pay for a hotel when I was down in the cities for that. And so that was the plan. Well, that morning I kept feeling like, don't go, like you shouldn't go. And I was like, man, you know what? Let's just get through the day. Let's see how you feel. You got a long drive. Let's see how the event goes. Well, about 5:36, I was like, I definitely feel like I should not be sleeping there tonight. And, I told Jess that. So I text Jason. I was like, thank you so much. I think I'm just going to, power through and drive home tonight. I appreciate the offer. And he had messaged Jess and told her that it was expecting me. And that things were going a little crazy in the house. Like it was upset that I did not come. So that's kind of what prompted me to ask questions to the demonologist. I was like, let's see what someone else sees. Because again, if you're able to validate each other and things like that. However, the reason that I bring this up, because it will affect a later investigation, is I made a deal because this entity has asked me to speak with it, and I've just been very much on the fence because I couldn't tell if it was trying to mess with me or if it was being genuine yet. But the agreement was, if it stops blocking the other spirits from communicating with us so we can hear their story, I will sit down and, we will obviously have all of our equipment and everything going, but I will sit down with him and I will channel and I will talk with him. And according to what I was told, he bowed in agreement. So I'm interested to see if on the next investigation, if that actually is true and if it keeps its word.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, that's fascinating. Dave, do you want to add anything?
I don't think so. I think that kind of covers that place.
Yeah.
And the address,
definitely.
if people are interested in, it's 3223 Bridgham in Minneapolis. That's where he's at right now. And again, he's hoping to have it at least on the Minnesota or Minneapolis history tours, or haunted tours as well. So
Nice. Would he be doing investigations? Because I have, audience in that area. Does he do he would do the tours, or you just kind of basically walk around in certain areas and kind of do your own thing?
I think he would go through it. I think his plan, and I don't want to speak for him completely, his plan was, he would share the walk with the group that wanted to tour and give the full details. We would have our stuff for them so they could hear and verify everything as well. So he's very open to sharing this house with people and the history in this house.
Good for
I
him.
just think the biggest thing is like he respects the spirits of the house, very much so. And I believe that that's why they love him so much. And so anybody who does choose to check that place out, I do encourage you to treat the spirits of the home with kindness and respect, because they
Yeah,
are very they don't it's a good place. So
yeah. That's really good to say, Tiffany, because again, people forget these were people once, just like you and me.
yep,
And for whatever reason, stuck there, want to stay there, who knows? If you go in there trying to elicit a negative response, you're probably going to get one. Just like
yep,
us. If either one of us start yelling and screaming at each other, well, probably it's going to happen.
yeah,
And, why would you want that? Especially you don't know what could happen. And there's been a number of things, investigations that people have done that and nothing good has come out of it. So yes, treat them with respect and treat the house with respect. And, again, just know you hopefully you can go there and figure out something for yourself or get some answers for yourself. And that's the whole point, right? Awesome. So what investigation we're gonna move on to next?
Well, do you want the good, the bad, or the ugly? I guess.
do you want
I
do you,
want all three.
well well
Let's start with the ugly.
well well
Sorry, Divinity.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just a big can of worms. But you know what? I think it's about time we talk about this location because we've been really respectful to the city of Boyd and its history, because that city has a lot of dark history. The
Is this
house
still in
they call
Minnesota or where is this?
this is in Minnesota.
It's about
Okay.
This is in
20 miles west of Montevideo, closer to the South Dakota border.
this town's so small. They have like a gas station, a bar, that is also the liquor store and is next door to a cafe. And then for whatever reason, they have a strip club, a strip club across the street that apparently is very successful.
Perfect. Perfect.
So super super small town. Dave and Jess brought me in to check out that house, or again, they call it the Boyd House now. We checked that out, I want to say November of 2022 with me. They had been there prior. When I walked through, I had picked up on, I colored my thick thigh queen. There was a woman who would sit on this chase lounge in the living room. And when I came in, it was really funny because she looked at me and she just patted the seat. She's like, come sit down, come sit down. And I was just kind of like, okay, I'm continuing the walkthrough and I get to another couch. And again, she's back over there, like patting the thing. And I looked at Jess. I was like, are we allowed to sit on the furniture in this house? And she's like, well, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. It just keeps encouraging me to sit. There was also a little boy and a girl. Um, there was an older man we encountered later up in the closet hiding. He does not like the traffic of the home. He is kind of cranky with it. And he doesn't like when the children play upstairs. Then, of course, there's Fred and Minnie, and everybody can argue with me with it if they want, but I'm the one who's talking to the spirit, and Fred is a pervert. I have never,
Okay.
I have never, ever been, what's a good word for this, Dave? Had a spirit come on to me so adamantly before.
And when you say come on to you, what do you mean by that?
Like, one of the times, because it got to a point where I was just laughing about it. I was like, this is ridiculous. And at first I thought that the thick thigh queen was his wife. So I was like, go spend time with your wife and like, leave me alone. And no. And then so there was this one time in that house, the very first time, Jess had me in, like, you exit the kitchen. Dave, what's that room called where they had the coffin originally?
Well, that was one of their kind of the living room, but again, that's one of those houses that they would put the casket there for 3 to 5 days. And that's where, like, the owner, Fred and Minnie, who were well known in that town, that's, where they laid for a few days so everybody could pay their respects.
So Jess had me, I didn't know what the spot was. She's just like, hey, will you lay on the floor right here like this in this position? And it was just kind of like, okay. So I laid down and, she was sitting in a chair right by the doorway entrance. So, I tilted my head back to look at her. And all I see is Fred like leaning in the doorway like this with his shirt unbuttoned and just kind of like, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And it was just kind of like, again, it wasn't anything like crazy, disgusting or anything like that. But like, again, a spirit's coming on to me. And it was just the funniest thing to me. It's the funniest thing. And then I called her the thin woman, but it turns out that was Minnie because, again, I practice blind. So Fred is the one who was coming on to me. Minnie was his wife. But that first night, I got drawn up to the attic and uh, we had followed an old man spirit up there. Again, he liked to hide. So while we were up there, because of how he get cranky about kids playing and stuff, and I'm like, we're trying to talk to him about crossing over and things. And then I had one of my students with me that time, and I let her ask questions, and she was trying to encourage him to cross over. And she's like, I can open white light up. And then all of a sudden, like, it was full force. Like, when I tell you, like, the other place I did get choked, choking was something that Jess could hear from downstairs in the living room. So 2 floors down. I was gagging and I had to get up and walk away. And I was just so infuriated. I was like, whoa, where did this come from? Like, and at first I was pinning it on the old man, like, why would you do this? And then, we were done with the attic and we went down to the basement where the spirit I referred to as crackhead decided to show himself. He is
Okay.
a spirit he's very thin, very gangly. He has user tendencies, so he's very erratic and he likes to pace back and forth. And, in the 90s, those like long sleeve silk shirts people would wear, button ups.
Yeah.
He wore a bright red one of those and he had long, slick back, greasy hair and a low ponytail. And he hid the entire investigation. And about this time, I had channeled for about 9 hours. So I was
Wow.
getting a little tired. And
Right.
so he started presenting himself because he was obsessed with Dave. And this is kind of where things, I would say, latching on started because Dave sat down. They had this table down there. He was going to do poker playing. And we have, what was it, EVP going, and we're asking questions. And he said something and he phrased it in a way. And I was like, no, like he was going to play cards. And he's like, I'll make you a deal. You can come home with me if, you win or something. Just trying to get like a response. And I was like, Dave,
What?
never say anything like that. Never say anything like that.
That was a good
Yeah.
learning experience.
And we learned, but then like I tried to ask a couple of questions and it would go dead. If Dave asked questions, he would respond and I could hear his response. So then I was like, Dave, I don't think he likes women talking to him. And then that's when it clicked. He was the one in the attic. He was the one who choked me out. So he just hid the whole time. But Dave, if you want to enlighten him kind of where the rest of that went and where we went with
It went crazy. So, that place has been out there for people to investigate for quite a few years now, getting up there. I mean, for a total, we've probably investigated there 8, maybe 9 times. The first time that we were there, walking in there, I kind of thought it originally was like Jason's. There was something there, but nothing dark. It was just a spirit that wanted to share their story.
him.
But as each investigation we got there, and then especially when Tiffany started joining us on investigations there, it was getting darker and darker, and it was coming after me. It was like Tiffany said, it was obsessed with me for whatever the reason. That night that we were making those deals and different stuff like that, Tiffany didn't stay the whole weekend. So the next night it was Jesse and I. And it was just kind of got that off feeling. Nothing was, the house was quiet that night. And I said, well, instead of driving back early in the morning, let's just start packing up and we'll just head out early. We'll let the owner know. And so I went down to the basement where it seems a lot of this stuff was going on. And I was standing up just past the foot of the stairs. To the right, there's a back room and there's kind of a bathroom and laundry room. And the left was the card table that we were at. And I was just standing there for a minute and I look over to my right where the bathroom was, and there was this dark shadow about my height walking right next to me. And to try to explain it to people, I was like, count to 4. That's how fast it was moving. And it was like right there. 1, 2, 3. And it was going towards that back room that was over in the corner. So it was coming from the laundry room. And it caught me off guard at first because I was like, you want to double check. Did I see that? Was it something around? You look around, Jesse was upstairs and I was like, Jess? Like, what? And I'm like, you need to get down here like right now. And I explained the whole situation, and she always said I was very calm, and I think part of it was shock, but with what has happened to me at some of the other places being touched and grabbed, I think I had accepted it,
Right.
but it was still until you see that yourself,
Yeah.
you really don't know how you're gonna react to a situation like that.
Yeah.
And sadly, since, the investigations have continued, the very last time that I went back to that house, because Dave, haven't I only been there, was it twice or three
Right.
times? Twice. So the second time I went back with them, God, it was April of last year. And, I went into the house and it felt different. Like energetically, it just felt very different and I didn't see a single spirit again. I didn't see
Really?
Fred. I didn't see Minnie. I didn't see the children. I didn't see the old man. I saw no one. And it was really, really weird. And, we're trying stuff in all these different areas and everything. And then I kept feeling like we needed to go to the attic. And I'm like, let's go to the attic. Let's go to the attic. Let's go to the attic. So, finally we wrap up with whatever we were doing last. And oddly enough, this is because, Jess typically is like the mind behind everything. And she helps us, you know, coordinate, do things and like set up the equipment and, help us decide which areas we're going to do things in. And this time she's like, you know what? I want to do the Estes method. And we were like, oh, like, okay, cool. Like, yeah. So we went up to the attic and it's this giant attic. So she's at the complete opposite end. And then Dave and I are sitting back by the stairs and asking our questions. It is an empty attic, but still. So she's got those headphones on. She can't hear us. She's got goggles on. She can't see us. And we just talk in low voices, asking our questions. And what I thought was weird is, I was just kind of being quiet while Dave was like leading things. And I kept feeling like if we were being dicked around, basically, to sum it up, because all of a sudden they're talking about the stop sign by the railroad track. They're talking about nurses and like all of these different things that have never come up inside that location before. So I was like, my spidey senses went off. And then, so when my spidey senses go off, I'm like, hey, it's time to ask certain questions. So
Right.
immediately I said, without trying to antagonize anything, I said, hey, I was like, we're only here to help. We care about the spirits of the house. And we don't know if anyone's ever given you the option, but if you'd like to cross over, we're going to open that chain of light for you guys to cross you over. I don't know. I was like, we're good friends with Archangel Michael, so we can call on him to help you guys. And then all of a sudden, what came through the Estes method was fucking bitch, push her down the stairs.
Whoa.
Complete 180. And then after that, I could see it. And I don't know if you've ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Sure.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay. The very, very first season, the master, the bad villain, he's a
Yeah. I think I
vampire.
remember. Yeah. Okay.
Kind of looks Freddy Cougarish. Like his
Yeah.
skin looks
Right.
weird. And that's what this was, except it was like over 6 foot and it was very gangly and had very long fingernails. And I'm like, what? And it's right behind her. And I'm like,
God.
what the freak? And, I've been working with Dave on like his own development with spirituality and things like that. So my first response is validation. So I just nudge him and I'm like, Dave, like, do you see anything around Jess? And I don't know if you want to like tell your spot about that, Dave,
Well,
because
yeah, and when she kinda nudged me and I'm like, "Okay," and I started looking and, it took a little bit, but then I'm like, "Holy shit." I said, "There's this,
Yeah.
you know, bald, pointy-eared thing with long nails putting his arm around my wife." I mean, as a husband, even in a paranormal investigator, I mean, that's my first thing is to protect her.
hmm
So seeing this, I'm like, you're shocked at first because you know, people throw that word demon around like it's
Right.
whatever. And when you look at validation, you're like, okay, what did I just see? I've never seen anything like that. So at first I'm like, is that a demon? Is that this? Going through my head as fast as I can process it. What did I just see? And then I think we kind of looked at each other and
and we were like, we're done.
we're
And
done.
and
You
we turned
called on all the archangels to help us at that point.
well, we know before that, there was one part because like I flipped the light on, which because we were next to it and it jolted Jess out of it with the red goggles because it did like a flash. And I was like, we're ending this. Like, this isn't human. This is something very negative, something with very big ill will. And I walk up to Jess and I am like, I tap on her shoulder and she's just like, well, I'm fine. And, she's like, I'm okay. Like, I want to keep going. And I'm like, all right. But if I get one more inkling, like, we're done. Like, we're done. And so she went back under, we went back to our spots. And then, I'm not sure which questions we were on at that point or what we were saying at that point, because I know I was talking about angels. And then Dave grabbed my arm and he was like, Tiffany. And it was off to my right in the darkness and in the shadows. But there was a huge treasure chest. And Dave grabs my arm and he goes, Tiffany. And he's whispering to me, he's like, that thing is on the treasure chest. Or no, he's like, it's on the, what did you call it? Something else, didn't you, Dave? You were like,
No, I don't
he
trust
called it
anything.
something else. I'm calling it a treasure chest because immediately after he called it out being on that object, you hear come out of the Estes method, treasure chest.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So
Wow.
it got to a point that it was very, very threatening up there. And I was just
Yeah.
kind of like, we're donezo. We had to sleep the night in the house. So I'm like, didn't get the
Yeah.
best sleep because I'm just being vigilant. And then the next day we did a tour of the town. I call her with Mayor Lady and we investigated some of their stuff out there. And when we came back, I call him their tech guy, Spencer, he was there and he had shown up the next day. So I was like, well, I'm going to go. Don't go into the basement.
Yeah.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
Right.
And don't forget what happened last night. Like, I'm not playing and I will not sleep here again. And I also, I have to go because I had work. So, Dave, I wasn't here for any of this. And this is just where everything really took a huge turn with that house and really opened our eyes to what had actually been happening.
Wow.
So the night that Spencer got there, we went back to the attic.
First thing they did.
He
Really?
heard the stuff.
You went back to the attic,
We
David?
went
Come
back-
on,
we went-
buddy.
We went back to the attic. I don't listen very well. It's,
I guess not.
he was under for the first part of it. And, we were getting questions and stuff like that, but it wasn't to the negative that the night before. It was funny because I'm surprised that after looking back at it now, I'm surprised I didn't get a response the first night. Like a couple months or a month or so, month prior, actually, I had just gotten a Archangel Michael tattoo. It was something that I always wanted. I kind of asked him, I pointed at my arm, not saying anything. I said, do you know what this means? And it said 3. And it kind of baffled me at first. And I'm kind of looking at the hierarchy maybe of, God, Jesus, Archangel Michael, those type of scenarios. But it sounded like it understood what it was and what it represented on my arm. So then we flipped and I was under the method and Spencer was asking questions and it started getting darker. Now previous times that I've been there and when I've gone under, that's why I said Delco takes everything away from you and puts you vulnerable, because those times in the past that I've been down in the basement under those, it was coming after me. Whatever that was downstairs in the basement was coming after me because didn't like me.
Dave literally, Dave could barely. So, the crazy part is, if I went to put the headphones on, silent. Dave, and you could hear it because it's loud. Dave barely, he's got the headphones above his head and he's just starting to put them on. And all of a sudden, it's 10 different spirits are just jumping him and everybody's trying to come through at once the minute he goes to put that thing on. It's crazy.
It's scary. I'm trying to do this for scientific to learn that, but I'm also now learning it from a spiritual point of view, and that's the holy shit part,
Mhm.
So on this investigation, we try not to as much as we can, but I had to bring my son. We didn't have a babysitter. He had type 1 diabetes,
Boy.
so it was making sure, those could be taken care of. He had
Right.
he's a teenager. He was down there playing his video games on his computer and all that type of stuff. And all of a sudden, I hear under the microphones, I got him. And, I say that out and, Spencer asks, who do you got? I said, Jensen. That's my son's name.
No.
I've never ripped stuff off my head and fast. So I flew down that flight of stairs.
Yeah.
Jessie looked at me. She's like, what? And I'm like, is he okay? And he wasn't listening. He didn't know. And he's like, yeah, he's over there just playing on his game. And I'm like, okay.
Ooh.
And she's like, why? What happened? And I told her what happened. And that's the point we made the determination we can't do this anymore here,
Yeah.
especially at that point. Because Tiffany had left, Jesse was messaging her, but we made the decision to call another person in, which I have my opinions on, but we'll leave it at that. But I had, at that point, it was for my wife and kids and that safety.
Yes.
So I took that step to call him for help. Some things were validated that Tiffany had said the night before, which is even more scarier from a spiritual point of view.
Right.
But at that point, we just decided, you know what, we can't go back to this place anymore. It's gotten to the point where it's not, it's, you can call it a haunted location or whatever. I mean, at that time, I was like, it was a portal of hell. It just, if you're kind of attacking and constantly attacking people there, it's not to go there, something bad's going to happen to you.
After what happened to them that night, and they called me and they were on the, driving home in the middle of the night after that. I felt something visit me in my house, and I was like, lit up some sage, lit up some incense, like, get out, whatever you are, because it didn't feel good. And proceeding after that, this entity continued to mess with Jess and Dave. And there would be times where Jess can hear it mimic Dave's voice when he's not even home.
Boy.
Yeah. Making phone calls from Dave's work that Dave never made. Like, just a lot of weird, crazy things.
This
a lot of
isn't
different
just a dark, spirit that's been there for so long. This was demonic to that point. And I'm comfortable saying that because I can say that honestly for myself and what I saw.
And from what I had seen, what we had experienced, and just seeing how it latched on to people, obviously, we're not the only ones. We're not the only ones. We're just the ones who are aware.
Right.
Because most investigators just kind of go in and they're going looking for evidence. They're not actually tuned in to what's around them. That day I did my walkthrough the very first time, Dave mentioned the washer dryer room in the basement and how he saw that shadow come out of there. The day I had seen that, I said, something comes and goes from this hole. Something comes and goes. There's several portals in that house now originally, and they can come at me if they want. I really don't mind because this is just truth. Originally, we reached out to the owner of that house to tell them about our experience and how it followed us and how you can cleanse negativity and bad things out of a home without hurting the spirits who belong to the place. Sure. Because we've done that at many locations. It's to remove negative energy is what it is to do. So we reached out to the owner to explain what had been going on, ask if anything else had been going on, and to ask if we could have consent to cleanse it. And we would book the place and we would go and we would cleanse it. We were gaslit the entire conversation. We were and I want to say this, anything demonic, if you're doing what something demonic wants you to do, things are going to be going good for you. The minute you stop doing what it wants you to do, or you're unable to do what it wants you to do, your life will go to shit.
Wow.
You will become its next source of food. So right now, the owner is just kind of like more than happy to make money off of this demon house, call it the demon house, and talk about all this activity and things there. She told us on the phone that, she got on EVP that Fred and Minnie were asking for help and said that there were portals in the house. Yet refused to believe me when I said there were portals in the house. On top of that, told us that we were the only ones who have ever had a problem there. Well, we actually just found out the other day there was it a paranormal team who went there?
Paranormal team, and then somebody off of that.
Yeah.
Something happened to their kid. Very similar to the same instance of coming after saying it's got my kid. So there's a pattern now.
And on top of that, we looked at the post and my mind was just blown because of what happened to that child. And, the mom who's like making the comment and talking about how terrified they are and how they're trying to bring awareness to what's actually in that house. It's not all copacetic anymore. And that was 2 years prior to our conversation with the owner. And she told us no one ever has issues. It's just us.
Yeah.
Whoever chooses to go to the house needs to be careful because that is no longer a historical thing. It has become a demonic house with all the portals in there. It's just going to keep bringing more and more and more in.
But even the history of that town that we found out about, that town is saturated with darkness.
Hmm.
It's too long to a story to share, but I'd love to share it sometime. But just even that town, because our team was given access to the whole town if we wanted it, where we could investigate all the areas. We did some small things in some of the buildings there and what we heard about the land in some areas. This isn't a regular town. This is
Hmm.
this is this is
We
some dog
Sounds
we
like
shit.
it. Yeah, I'd love to hear more sometime.
I do
Part
want to
three.
add this quick.
Yeah, great.
The very first time that I went to that house when everything was, normal, that Chase Lounge, the lady was like, come sit down with me. So me and my student were waiting for Jess and Dave to get back. And I'm like really sleepy. So I was like, man, I need some coffee. And I don't really drink coffee, but I'm like craving coffee all of a sudden. And, it's not the best reception in the house, but I had reception. And so it's a tiny town. And I'm like trying to Google it, like, hey, coffee shops near me. And then there was one over in Montevideo. And then all of a sudden my phone glitched. My phone glitched, not exits me out of anything, pulls up a completely different page. And it was the cafe. So she's like, well, that's just around the corner. So we went over to the cafe to grab a cup of coffee. And the girl who was working there used to live in the house. And she was like, I got stories for you guys. And I was like, well, don't tell me like
Right.
anything that I don't need to know right now. But she was like, there's been so much activity. I've got stories, this, and that. So when we went back, we actually sat down with her to interview her because we were trying to do like a historical thing for the town.
Yeah.
And she kept changing her story. She kept changing, like she won't own up to it now. So I feel like either she's just really terrified what's in there, or she's had some memories come back of what's over there and just doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But
No, that sounds like
so
it.
there's a lot of inconsistencies. The thing there will definitely latch on to people, and
Wow.
God knows what else is in that house now.
Wow.
The only other thing I can compare to what that house is becoming is recently we went to Edinburgh Manor,
And
Dave? Edinburgh, sorry.
That's in
Edinburgh.
Iowa, right? Yeah.
And, I picked up stuff there, and that, like, there's, I think online everybody calls him the Joker. He's an
Correct.
orderly with blonde hair. When I first did my walkthrough by myself, or I don't know, Dave was with me for a little bit, but he kept following me. He followed, and again, it felt like he was just observing, just watching, observing and watching, seeing what I'm doing. And then when we got to the basement, Dave had me do a couple of things. Then we go into this other room, and he's like, well, is there anything specific you get in this room? And I was just kind of like, I don't know. And so how it works with me sometimes too, if people give me a word, I get a download, or I get a phrase, or I get an instant, like something. So Dave's like, anything? And I'm like, I'm not sure. Again, I just see this dude following me. And all of a sudden he's like, well, what's the first superhero comes to mind? Instantly, I hear Batman. But I also love Batman. So I'm like, Dave, I don't really know if I can validate that. And then he's like, okay, how about a villain? And instantly I hear Joker. And I'm like, Joker. And he's just kind of like, oh, well, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden, this dude who'd been following me, his whole demeanor switched. Like, if you ever watch Happy Gilmore, the
Yeah.
orderly who's taking care of the grandma, and he's like, oh, so
Yeah.
sweet, oh, so nice. And and then Adam Sandler leaves and he's like, you're good. Like that kind of orderly.
Wow.
Okay, but darker. And, so I was like, holy moly. So then I was like getting some stuff. We went over, whatnot. Later that night, and actually, we went up to the room where we had all of our equipment set up. And when I sat in the chair, all of a sudden he's just behind me, like this, like clawing at me, like this, like you would see an animal. And I'm
Okay.
like, what the frick? Like, what is going on here? And I tell him
Yeah.
about it and everything. Later that night, we get in the basement. We were doing the Delco Estes method. Dave starts picking some stuff over in this hallway, and like the energy in the room changed. Stuff got really heavy and really dark. And I don't remember if we heard something further back, but we got up, Dave and I got up, and we started to walk down that way, and we had our flashlights on. And my arm moved, and I saw blood. And I looked at my wrist. I had been cut on my wrist, and I had a needle pinprick up here on my arm, same arm. All this injuries on the same arm. So pinprick up here bleeding, a cut here, and then on my pinky was cut.
Wow.
And I'm like, when did this happen? Like I never even felt it. And it
Yeah.
was pretty fresh. like within a few minutes. So, we found out later, I found out later that people had been scratched and attacked there like that. As that night progressed, we started to get some crazy stuff on audio. And I saw some stuff where I was like, there's demonic stuff here. And it's like, I can't describe this to you better right now, but it was so strong. It was so heavy that I was like, at that point of, I know it knows I know it's here. We've already acknowledged each other. Specifically, this demonic entity, it operates through a camouflage of a little girl with brown hair.
Hmm.
So I don't know how many people have seen that little girl, but that is not the real little girl. There is another one there who is genuine, but that entity portrays itself through the girl with brown hair. And then something shifted and we stopped getting information because Jess was doing the questioning. And I think that the Joker got so upset that he ran to Daddy because it went dead silent. And I've seen things my entire life, but I've never seen something to this extent. It was like everything was coming out of the boiler room and it was just flooding down the hallway. All I could see is black shapes of entities clawing on walls, floors, roofs, just coming down that hallway to us. And I just immediately was like, yep, no, we're done. We're done. Like we're leaving right now. And I stood up and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, y'all can follow me or I'm leaving this building because
Yeah.
I am a strong medium and spiritualist, but I was not prepared for something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
That place is a hot house, and I see the Boyd house turning into that.
Wow. That is amazing. You know, you guys have been great. We've gone a little bit over here. I really appreciate it. I could talk to you guys for hours. We'll have to do a part 3 here.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much cool stuff. Wow. Thanks for the nightmares, by the way.
You're welcome. Just sleep with some selenite under your pillow.
Oh, there we go. Thank you for that. So
Merry Halloween.
thank you so much. Yeah, we'll have to do a part 3 here because, yeah, I have something coming up here soon, but wow. That's all I can say is wow, guys. Yeah, like I said, nightmares. Thanks for that. But before we wrap up here, what do you guys have coming up? Any?
We actually have a big event coming up that the weekend of November 8th, we are going to be hosting an event at Malvern Manor to raise
Oh,
money for type 1 diabetes.
nice.
That disease has hit our family and has also hit Tiffany's family personally.
Hmm.
There's a lot of investigating. And if people want the opportunity to investigate with us, it's $65 a ticket. And they get to hang out Saturday night with us at Malvern Manor. And then if they don't, but they still want to make donations, they can get in touch with us by our Instagram page or Facebook and stuff like that. We'll get in touch. But we do have a few openings left for people that might want to come down on that night and come and investigate.
I love it. And, if these investigations are anything like your previous investigations and a couple we, like I said, we got to do a part 3 here. Wow. You guys have blown me away. I love it. Yeah, I'm sorry about the Boyd house and some other things, but that's a part of it, right? That's a part of investigation, You're gonna have some fun things, some silly things, maybe some boring things, but,
We do have silly ones, though. They're out there.
yeah, absolutely, and that's something, like I said, I'll have to have you guys back on and because I've already kept you guys long enough, but I'd love to keep you longer. So we'll have you on again to talk about that and that investigation of the Melbourne Manor. Please reach out to David at the Instagram and, take the opportunity to sign up for that because again, that sounds really interesting and you're in good hands with David and
Snacks and stuff will be provided.
well, there we
So
go.
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And he has a great team and hopefully Tiffany, you can make it and be there too.
I'm definitely going to be there.
That would be awesome. Again, I can't thank you guys enough. This is one of my best episodes, and I look forward to having you guys on again. I don't appreciate the nightmares, but like you said, I'll sleep with under my pillow and stuff. So again, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you go over time with me, and I love this. And like I said, I gotta have you guys back on again. I can't get enough
We
of it.
love talking about it. So anytime you want, just give us a call.
I will, David. And Tiffany, thanks you so much. Stay strong, girl.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you again taking the time out here and stay spooky.